break, and then ultimately I missed being that police officer capacity, so I applied here, and then I got hired on as the captain. Then a week later, I was appointed to the acting chief. But since being here, the task was huge. The task was major. I was tasked with, or I had officer shortage. The schedules weren't adhering to the need of the general public, to the amount of calls that were coming in. So I had to make change, and I had to make change so that each district got the same attention regardless of how big or how small they were. During my time here, we've had a lot of meetings as far as updating criminal code, adjusting it to fit the specific crimes that are going on here, to better get a handle, to better enforce these crimes. Because some of the criminal codes were so vague. Also, with being here in this position, we increased our staff, not by a lot, and we're not full contract, but we increased our staff quite a bit. Also, while being in this position, prior to me coming or being in this position, there wasn't really no working relationship with the outside agencies, whether it was the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, Pennington County, or perhaps CP, or any other local agencies that are outside of the reservation here. So I opened that up. I opened that up also to the BI Drug Task Force, to the DEA, to basically not have them come in and take over, but also come in and assist. Any kind of assistance that helps us better the fight against drugs and the crimes that are being committed here, I was all for it, and I'm still committed to that. I'm open to everything and anything as long as it helps the betterment of the Oglala Sioux tribe. I'm not one to be standoffish or possessive in any aspect. I'm here to work with, like I said, everybody, whether it's within the tribe or outside the tribe. And it's been working. It's been working as far as partnerships with outside agencies and also within here, Oglala Sioux tribe. But I was always asked if I like what I do. I actually love what I do. I didn't come in with the intention to be in this position, but I was put in this position. I accepted this position, and I actually like it. I actually love it. And with this, if appointed, my deal is to not only strengthen more, but also, I guess, have that capability to implement change where it's needed, because in an acting capacity it's kind of tough because you don't know if you're going to be here the next day or not. My intention is not to be here not to be here in the long term, but by a yearly basis. So that's all I have, and I appreciate everybody's time and accepting my interview.
Okay,
Councilman, before you move on, let's recognize Councilman Steele at 1228.
okay.
Thank you.
So one of the questions that I had, and I'll start the questioning, this position requires the CI certification. With that, have you moved forward or have intentions to get that certification to stay or possibly be in this position?
I always said on the last law and order meeting, I stated the position requires, I will do it. I have no problem with it. But there was also that, I'll leave that one alone, but yeah, if I need to, I will.
Norman?
I guess this question is only for you because because it concerns your future plans, and we're under the understanding that you took out a petition for Rosebud Council. So if you do get selected to be one of their council people, the only reason you take out a petition is because you want to be on council. And if you take that position, that leaves us back in the same place we're at now, looking for a chief of police. So why would you take the chance in leaving us and go to council over there? And do you think it's right that we make you a choice when we're not guaranteed you to stay with us?
That's a legitimate question. I appreciate that question. I put in with the hopes, but it's never guaranteed. And, you know, just like this position, I threw my name in the hat as well. So it's more or less, if I win it, which ain't gonna happen until the end of the year anyway, versus this position if I'm accepted. But I do believe within the Oglala Sioux tribe, under that council stature, I think I can still serve this position. And that's why I'm only asking for, if I was to be accepted, I will only do it as a yearly contract, a 1-year contract. So that if I do win it, I'll have that time to put somebody in there, teach them the role, get them to where they need to be, advise them everything, and then ultimately leave that position.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Hello. You supervise along with the law enforcement officers, but you also have an administrative part. How is your relationship with that administrative office? Is it decent? Is it good?
With my support staff?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have a good working relationship with my support staff.
Okay. So
I have no issue with my support staff. Coming in, we were lacking in our federal FBI stats, all of our monthly reporting. We were almost 2 years delinquent. So coming in, I was a little strict with them, but now we're up to par. And I told them as long as they're doing their job, I have no problem with it, and I treat everybody with respect.
okay. So you hold them all
I
accountable
hold them
for
all
their
accountable, yes.
Anna?
Thank you. Right now, there are concerns in the community about regarding cases involving juveniles or young adults who are arrested with firearms or drug-related incidents, but they're being released quickly or with small bond amounts. Who has the authority to reduce or dismiss these charges, and also who has the authority to set the bond amounts, and what safeguards are in place to ensure that these young individuals are being held to a standard that's fit to keep the community safe?
So under the ordinance of the Oglala Sioux tribe, whenever a juvenile is arrested, there's 15 days maximum jail time for these juveniles to sit in JVC. 15 days regardless of the severity of the crime. When it comes to release, bond, or declination, it always comes from the tribal court judge. So I brought it up to where there needs to be a set standard as far as whenever these juveniles do commit these serious crimes, that it needs to be more strict, or there needs to be more punishment to it. Because the 15-day maximum, it's a set standard, and these juveniles know I'll go sit 15 and I'll be out. So it needs to be changed to where the severity of the crime, and then ultimately, what's the end goal for that juvenile? There's other programs as far as to get these juveniles their help, to get them counseling, to get them. When we talk about juveniles, we talk about not detention. It's not correctional. It's detention to correct their behavior. So there needs to be more programs that are custom or supposed to be in place to help these people when it comes to, or to help these juveniles when it comes to what's really their major problem and how can we get them their help.
Okay, Julianne?
Thank you. Understanding that we are understaffed and that you have to follow the criminal code that we established and working with our attorneys and being understaffed, and also given the high crime rate amongst our juveniles in the community, how do you encourage your officers to support the council's decisions in making policy and law as far as holding parents accountable or grandparents accountable or relatives accountable for incidents that are happening in the community?
The last law and order meeting that we did have after it was passed, as far as holding parents accountable, we've been doing that since the inception and the passing of that. So we've been holding parents accountable, we've been charging parents, and it just took this body to pass that. But we are arresting parents now. And regardless of the guardianship or whatnot, we had a conversation to, regardless of the guardianship, if they're a parent, do the summons, arrest them, or do anything to get them accountable as well. So it doesn't really matter.
I'll use an example. An officer recognizes a family member and they say that they know who that individual is. I don't think that they know their child is doing that, so I don't feel comfortable arresting them. How do you respond to that?
Doesn't matter. Parents should know where their children are. Every responsible parent should know where their children's at, so it shouldn't matter. And we handle it as such. Even if they don't know, we're still gonna either file an affidavit or summons them to court for reference to the child neglect and the contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Norman?
Every law enforcement officer on the reservations swore an oath to uphold the ordinances of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Now, just an example, the use of alcohol is prohibited on the reservation. And without pointing the finger at programs that don't involve law enforcement, since law enforcement is to detain or arrest suspected violators of our laws, why is Billy Mills Hall, Big Bats, and Louis full of people under the influence all day? Where is the law enforcement there?
We don't go out and look. The only time that the officers do make that arrest is whenever they're actively doing something illegal.
Just a second. You don't go out and look, but in the eyes of a law enforcement officer, he obviously can see who's intoxicated. And if he takes one drive through there, he can identify it. One drive. And there should be, it falls on your shoulders to make sure that area is patrolled. And those that are under the influence, we do have an 8-hour hold, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so a lot of these people are intoxicated, or an officer can suspect them of being intoxicated. Give them a breathalyzer, take them to jail. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I'm just looking at the obvious.
So when it comes to, I mean, we can do that all day, but when we deal with reaching jail capacity, and they have a standard as far as, and they do implement a cutoff point. So once they implement that cutoff point, where do we take the overflow? Because the jail does put out emails And they let law enforcement know that, okay, we're at capacity, we cannot take nobody, and it's kind of the same thing for juveniles as well. So what are we doing to alleviate that from the correction part of it? So we gotta pick and choose as far as, are we gonna fill our jail up with intoxicated individuals? Or are we gonna keep room to house people that are actually committing crimes?
You don't know that though. You don't know that there's people committing crimes, but these people have already committed a crime. So by not picking them up, you're a judge and jury. You make that determination. I don't think that's your determination. I think you swore an oath to arrest people that committed a crime. And that crime was committed.
It's not being, I mean, just respectfully responding to that, it's not judge and jury, but it's prioritizing the crimes that do happen.
And you're allowing everybody to drink, and they can do it freely. So all they have to do is call the jail and say, are you full? You say, yes, you are. Okay, we can have a party now, because they're not gonna arrest us and take us to jail.
Again, that falls back on the correction part of it. What are we gonna do with overflow? How are we gonna handle it? Me, I can only adhere to what they're gonna take and what they're not gonna take, and whenever their cutoff comes in place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During La Corta, you speak La Corta, my question.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Anna?
Sitting on Law and Order Committee, we get reports that officers are not attending court hearings or being subpoenaed, even though they're being subpoenaed for court hearings. What message do you send to your officers about the importance of attending those court hearings or being subpoenaed to follow up on the arrests and investigations? And how can the public be assured that the cases are not being jeopardized by them not attending their court?
So up until recently, I'm gonna go ahead and speak to this. Up until recently, they've been attending. Well, up until recently, we had 3 officers not show. And when it comes to the court process, they held them in show cause. These 3 officers were, the judge did implement show cause on them. But rather than enforcing it and kind of just basically slap them on the wrist, I advised the court to hold them, to give them some kind of fine, to kind of, and sad to say that, we'll make them an example so that it doesn't happen. So after that, we did have a meeting. I did put out there that I'm going to work with the judges and in regards to holding them accountable to make that's their job. That's what they're supposed to be doing. They need to attend these court proceedings.
Cubby?
Thank you, Chair. You know, I was just to touch on what Anna was gonna say was that, but my part is the police reports. The officers, I know that was a problem in the past for them not completing their police reports, also them not going to court. And you know, that could mean like, you know, a drug dealer could be back up, or pedophile rapist could go off there, just because their report ain't done, or them not being in court. So that's just something I know that, you know, we need to really hold them officers accountable and make sure they are getting their reports done and they are going to court. How you do that, I don't know, because it's always been a problem in the past, but it seems like you need somebody there to babysit, basically making sure they do their reports at the end of their police shift, make sure they are correct. So how are you going to fix that?
So it's gotten a whole lot better. There hasn't been any criminal or court proceedings declined because of reports. Ultimately, it was because these officers didn't show up for their court hearing. I do have Acting Captain Jack in place. He does go through the reports. I also meet with the Attorney General. Do you need it? Do you have everything you need for this week? If not, and it's not only for patrol, it's from CID as well. So I meet with her weekly, every Monday. Let me know what you need. I'll get it for you. If we're lacking somewhere, I'll get it for you. So We are not dismissing charges as far as from the reports. It's actually, three officers that didn't make the report.
So, but if they are gonna be missing their reports and their police reports and they're not going to court, then what are you gonna do to hold them accountable?
Those officers were given a reprimand, and then their next step will be suspension, and if not termination.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we need to move on. Thank you, Mr. Crow Eagle. We'll move on to the next candidate here. And also, I want, this is kind of my fault, committee, council. The questions that we ask, we gotta ask all five.
Be consistent.
Be consistent. Okay, Leonard, how many horses?
Praise the good Lord. And just a FYI, the lunch is here also.
We have a working lunch while we're. We could have a bring it in, right? Yeah, while we're. I want you to eat.
I know you breathe all over into the mic.
All over.
So do we want to continue with Mr. Jimenez horses or?
Get our lunch.
Yeah, let's do him.
Okay.
He's already here.
Good morning, Mr. Leonard Jimenez horses. We're going to give you 5 minutes to introduce yourself and kind of go through your history and whatever it is you want to say. And then we'll open it up to the floor for questioning. And then at the end, you'll have a chance to give a closing statement. So introduce yourself and whatever it is you want to say to the council. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Push the button. This one. Good afternoon, councilmen, councilwomen. My name is Leonard Jimenez. I live in the White Clay District. I've been employed as public safety. I started my career in January of 1998. In December of 2000, I graduated from the United States Police Academy in Artesia, New Mexico. After graduation, I worked various patrol areas. In March of 2011, I attended and graduated from the Criminal Investigator Training Program in Glencoe, Georgia. I continued my patrol duties until August 2011 when I was assigned to the FBI's Drug Task Force, a position I occupied with a few details to patrol until 2018. During my tour with the Drug Task Force, we were able to investigate, do field operations, and we took down 4 major drug conspiracies on the Pioneer Generation. These conspiracies resulted together well in excess of 100 federal indictments for drug trafficking and distribution. We also did a couple of pharmaceutical operations involving, the oxycodone and painkillers stuff. Then indictments was close to 50, I believe, with both of them combined. We also conducted operations in the surrounding border towns, Martin, Rapid City, Hot Springs, Fall River County, Henry County, Jackson County, Benton County. Those involved a lot of work. There were several dozen indictments that came about from them. So one of my backgrounds in investigation is narcotics trafficking. I understand that's the plague of this reservation right now. And I pretty much know how to plan, operate, and do all that. I'm working with different agencies, South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation, the FBI, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Rapid City Police Department. They were members of all them agencies within our team. In 2018, I was assigned to Chief Bobecky's office from 2018 to 2021. While there, I worked a lot with the U.S. Marshal Service with arrest operations for federal warrants. That took a lot of work also. We done, I don't even remember how many operations, but we were pretty successful at that. And also with this office, I operated with surrounding communities with information sharing. Had did a working report with the Nebraska border towns and South Dakota border towns. In Rapid City with stolen vehicles. I myself, assisted by other officers, recovered almost 100 stolen vehicles, including cars, trucks, ATVs, even a semi one time. And I pushed on that because the lead ringer of that organization, I called it, they were actually taking these vehicles out of state, trading them for narcotics. I was able to pursue a OST tribal presidential warrant, where he was actually extradited back to Benedict County and sentenced to 6 prison. During that time, I also worked in Brown County out of pretty much Aberdeen area on a fugitive that took refuge here on the reservation. This was a child sexual assault case, and we were successful in securing the presidential warrant on that individual, also extradited him out. I also worked with our sex offender registry officer with compliance checks. I think that's a very important aspect of law enforcement. In 2021, I went back into patrol as a shift lieutenant, which I occupied till I transferred over to the criminal investigation division. I think that's pretty much my background there. I have a lot of background into investigations.
Could you probably get, it goes off by itself.
I have a lot of background in investigations, planning, and everything. While working for that chief's office, we also worked with the U.S. Marshal Service, Rapid City Police Department on 2 individuals wanted for homicide up there. Again, being here to take refuge. A little investigative work, we were able to take both the suspects into custody. So pretty much the reservation can be a little hideaway spot for them around here. Think you can get away with your bad deeds from there.
Okay, so, Bob Weston, Law and Order Chair. One of the questions that I have is, are you CIS certified? Because this position requires it.
Yes, I was certified in March of 2011. In 2017, I attended the add-on criminal investigations in Indian country with the FBI. I've also got several other trainings. Did you get all that or no?
For the record. So, okay, so we'll open it up for a question. Go ahead, Norman.
I'm gonna try and get us close to the last question I asked the first candidate. We have ordinances that law enforcement arrest on. One of them being no alcohol use on a reservation. So, as chief of police, how would you direct your officers to deal with the issues that happen in our open areas where it's obvious people are intoxicated? I'll just use that as an example. Billy Millsall, buoys, Big Bats, over here on the corner. And what would you expect from your officers to do about these intoxicated people, and not just pointing out Pine Ridge Village, or pointing out every village on our reservation?
Okay, to answer your question, when I was shift lieutenant, I was assigned to the day shift. Mainly I'd be here in Pine Ridge or Manderson or Wounded Knee. I made it a point here in Pine Ridge to call my officers in like around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and start rounding people up, the obviously drunk ones, load them up, take them out to the jail, get them out of the common areas people use so they could, shop, do their everyday business without being hounded or bothered. Some of these intoxicated individuals do become kind of violent, pushy, and I didn't like that. Like right now, I rarely go to buoys, or it's even hard to check mail because I get hounded. I came out one day and they were trying the door handles in my car. My son was in the car. They didn't know that. So he jumped up in front of them, and 6 or 7 of them surrounded him. And that's unsafe for the public. That's what I believe the supervisors who are working now should instruct their officer to do the same. You can tell when someone's drunk. I point 2 or 3 out at Big Bass right now. So it's going to take aggressive enforcement, and a lot of them, that's what they look for, because they have nowhere to sleep at night. But still, the public deserve to, do their business in peace. The same goes for Oglala. We usually check around the Oyate, where they hang around the trailer courts, Manderson's, the playground, or the middle of the housing, or the park across with the post office. Evergreen's the same. They pretty much congregate somewhere near a bootlegger, or somewhere they could, get a little panhandling done. Every district has their unique place. The patrol officers need to start enforcing that.
Thank you.
Julia?
Good afternoon, Mr. Hermanihurst. My question is, how do you encourage your officers to follow and utilize the laws and policies that are applied from this council into the law code? I'll give an example. We passed a law, given the current situation with violent crimes in our community with our juveniles, to hold the parents accountable, and in some cases, the officers make the statement that they know this person, they don't believe that they didn't know that their child would do such a crime, or this is an elderly and they have nowhere else to go, so we didn't take any action at that point. How do you encourage officers to follow the law and uphold the laws that we set here?
That's dependent on the crime. Usually, I prefer they go to JDC, but that requires a medical clearance at IHS. I think I've been up there 16 hours one time. And if we could find a different way around that, in the past we've used our uncertified officers to do it, as long as they have, general defensive tactics, handcuffing, the baton, taser, or they can sit with them at the ER. Come up with some kind of program like that, or maybe a side add-on to public safety where that'll be a specific job. Deal with these juveniles, or get them medically cleared, maybe a couple positions, one for day, one for night. And the juvenile code needs to be revamped where we could hold them longer than 36 hours. Some of them commit some pretty, got kids shooting kids. That's not, agreeable to anyone here. The parents, I don't know how to say this, you see it's a nationwide trend, you see on TV, you see these teenage takeovers. And that's putting a lot of, how would you say it? It's motivating our youth to act in the same way. We got all these, what I blame is video games too. The time these juveniles are that age now, we had the, the COVID isolation, all this and that. They had nothing to do, so they were out running. Do what they want, they run over their parents are bullied. So it comes down to, I believe, the juvenile courts, code, and incarcerate them. So keep them in there until their sentence is done.
my question is, how do you encourage your officers to uphold the law when
To make
they're,
arrests.
when they're involved, when a family member is involved in a crime?
To work with the family, you know, sometimes, like I said, they bully the parents. And a lot of these parents ain't even present in the home. The kids living with grandma, uncle, or staying at friends. So that's gotta be worked with in conjunction with CPS. And I try to, back when I worked with them, I told them to call CPS and try to work something out to find out where the parenting is going wrong. And if, you know, the parent just don't care, I encourage them to not really make an arrest on the parent, but at least get a summons, where they have to appear in court, a show of cause type of deal. For the parent to come forward, you know, I can't control my kid's influenced by these, and they could, how would you say it? Come up with an interdiction type of deal. It's gonna take a lot of cooperation between different agencies. We do have here on the reservation in Thurston too, like GPS, the juvenile courts.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, so do we have any other questions? If not, we'll give you a chance to closing statement.
Chair,
Oh, sorry, Bob.
cover first on me.
Okay.
Hey Leonard, how you doing?
Excellent, how are you?
Question I have is, what are you gonna do to start holding our officers accountable from them not filling out their police reports and them not going to court? Because by both of them, either one of them not happening could get a guy out of jail. Some type of drug dealer, you know, someone that hurts people. What do you plan on doing about that? Because that's always been an issue.
The supervisors are usually advised of that. It starts with the captain. And then it goes down to the individual supervisors. We got the shift lieutenants. And it rolls down, you know, I come as a lieutenant myself, and I write the individuals up. But over my years working with public safety, all the person who has the main say-so is the chief. And the chief is usually just not there. The past 3 chiefs we had, or 2 or whatever. I personally got written up, chewed out by one chief because I missed court by 5 minutes and he dismissed the case. He pulled me in his office and you want to be a lieutenant or you want to go back on the street and do it again? I never missed a court case since. And the same's got to be pushed onto the supervisors. The supervisors are scared of disciplining their officers. They're scared of suspending them because they're going to have to step up and cover their shift or provide coverage. And this, you know, they get set in their ways. Right now we're running day shift, night shift, evening shift, day shift, and midnight shift. And it stays that way for 6, 8, 10 months, a year, 2 years. You know, when I first started, we rotated shifts. Evening went to midnight, midnight went to day, and day went to evening. That was every 28 days we switched. That way, you know, it's as fair as fair. You get to experience what different shifts are. You didn't get to choose your days off. You didn't get to... We actually have people quitting now because they can't have their certain days off. And as the court, I have written up officers in the past that I supervised, and they hired their attorneys. They put up a fight, but you know, you didn't show up. You didn't show up. Your subpoena. That's a judicial notice. You're a sworn officer, and you got to obey that. You didn't like it, but that's the way it goes. And we need our supervisors to step up. Like I said, they're scared of having to step up, or maybe they're friends too. Some of them are friends. They're close. That buddy deal. And then what's horrible now is social media. Things start popping up here, things start popping there, comments, you know, all that's that. And it's pretty fearful for the supervisor. But supervisors, you know, one thing our policy don't have through the stride is demotion. We can't demote these supervisors. I was told that. We could go up to termination, you know, but why not just demote them? They don't want to step up, why not put them back down and have someone who's been working there for a long time step into that position? Give everybody a shot at it. One can't do it, maybe another one will. And that's gonna have to be communicated between the supervisors, the captains. But you need to hold accountable. And I haven't seen that since, I wanna say around 2008. Beforehand, after, you know, they had the big officer walk out, when I came back, it was the chief. I started working for the chief's office for 10 years. And I noticed patrol was like that, they get their preferred days off and catered to. So, it's gotta start from the top. You know, we don't need change, we don't need to fire people, we need to do this, we gotta assess what's going on and find out who's got the experience and who will, you know, step up and hold their officers accountable. I've been to court several times where they called for officers. I've been to arraignments where, you know, I expected this guy that ran the cops and this and that, and he gets a dismissal because there's no police report. This information is sent to the chief or the captain, and as far as I've ever seen it go. Once it goes to the supervisor, it's just like, boom, it's gone.
You done, Kevin?
That's a good answer, Leonard, thank you. That's the first one I heard about, the motion, maybe we should look at that, the termination, and get that in there, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Blaine?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No.
Thank you.
Paul?
No, no, good. Cubby asked it.
Go ahead, Carter.
So, you mentioned something that I've seen since I've been on, you know, the council for a long time. It really don't matter who we put in as chief. We're always going to have upset officers. It really don't matter. Someone's always going to be upset. And you made this comment about, you know, catering to officers who wanted, you know, specific days off. So how would you deal with that as a chief?
I would more than likely implement some rotating schedules. I'll say this, I've worked law enforcement since 1998 and worked under them circumstances. Also, my spouse, she's in law enforcement, she's worked in. We never excuse this, I don't have a babysitter. You know, we have 5 kids, raised them from when they were infants through this and that. We worked hard. And it's up to these individual officers to structure their life. They want this job. This job is not for everybody. You know, a lot of people come from like administration jobs, 8 to 4:30. And that's it. At 4:30, they're gone.
I don't think I really got the answer. So, but you mentioned the friendships, and we've seen that over the year. How there's kind of like a brotherhood, like a bond there. And, you know, if one of your friends, don't do their reports or whatever, are you going to hold them accountable? Or are you going to push that under the carpet because that's your friend?
They need to be held accountable. You know, law enforcement's supposed to be transparent. And if something like that comes from the higher-ups, it's gonna snowball down. Oh, he won't do this, he won't do that to them. And that's what's been going on for the past 15 years. Buddy, you know, you see these Facebook posts, they're all hooking up, giving high fives or whatever they do in their personal lives. And they bring that into the job. Well, you could have this day off, you could have a leave when you want. But when it comes down to it, that supervisor, say the chief, the captain, or the lieutenants need to, you know, take that bond out of the job. The job is not their personal life. Public safety pays a good salary. for the job, for the work we have to do. And like I said, that comes to that buddy deal. Oh, you're gonna make me do this, you're gonna make me do that. I'm not gonna hang out with you, I'm gonna say this. Stuff comes up on social media. I've seen it. I've seen it numerous times. But these supervisors, if they want that position, they need to enforce what's in the policy. And if they're not able to do that, that's why I brought it up with Councilman Goldsberry. We need to implement a demotion type of deal. If they're not able to, break that bond, they want to be buddies, then I don't believe them for the supervisory position they're in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, we'll give you a chance for your closing statement. You wish to address the council in any?
Okay, my closing statement will be, public safety needs a, is it on? Public safety needs to be assessed. Whoever the chief that comes in, whoever you select, they're gonna just go to their guns right away, I know that. Public safety doesn't need to, fire this person, fire that, make drastic changes. They need to assess who these individuals are. With my years working here, almost, I'd say I was in law enforcement, the only job I've held since 1998. They need to assess these individuals. You learn to know who's gonna work. We got ones that sit by the radio, wait for dispatch to call them. We got other officers who watch our CAD system. When calls pop up, they hit them. And they need more motivation to take that upon themselves. They need supervisors out in the field. Right now, I still have friends within public safety. I'm no longer employed by them. But they say that. They say, what supervisor is at the PD? Or is at the highway safety office? That's the hangout at DPS up there. And that's not right. As a lieutenant, I was out there I covered that area. Or things pop up in other districts, I'd rotate to that area. Make sure someone was at least within a reasonable response time. You work these places all through the years, it comes up to one house, one group of people, maybe 2 or 3, where you're gonna always get the same calls. And you learn to adjust your officers to make sure the areas like was brought up, the downtown Pine Ridge, Anderson, the playground, the park. The supervisors who are in there are young, a lot of them are inexperienced. Some of them aren't from the reservation, they live off the reservation, they come here, they really have no ties. Some of the criminal investigators, the highway safety, they have no ties to this reservation. I heard a comment one day how I got upset, but I didn't say a word. We were sitting on property, and this individual said, that's a reservation problem, I don't live on a reservation, it's not mine, but yeah, he's here. Banking up on OT, all this and that. And that kind of, made me look odd at the individual after that. The ones that live here on the reservation are the ones that should be promoted through the ranks. A lot of us worked here a long time. A lot of us know the problems, who the problems are, who the bad guys are, who the good guys are. And in the past, individuals that come up here and say, oh, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. They make a promise. Law enforcement is a dynamic profession. While you're en route to a call, your call could change 3, 4, 5 times. And you got to learn how to assess it when you pull in. What did they say, what was going on? And you get there and it's something totally different and needs a different response. But a lot of these younger ones, I say, they have the supervisors don't have that experience. And that pretty much, leads to turmoil. Turmoil within the response times and everything, because I see a lot of younger ones, we know they're gonna fight you, we know they're gonna resist, and they take their time getting there. It's their assigned area, but someone from another area gets there first. It's just a pattern on them individuals. So what these supervisors are doing, they're assigning their officers to the gentle area, as that's called. Like on the Western Division, the gentle area would be Oglala, it's not that bad, except at night. Pine Ridge is always rocking, day, night, evening. Anderson lately has had its moments. Wounded Knee is, they're here pretty up in there again. Porcupine's kind of the south area. And Evergreen has its moments, Sharp's Corner, every now and then. And you see by me knowing all this is because of my experience in all these areas. And the supervisor's got to step up and, they have these bars on their shirt collar. That gives them the right to do what they want, and that's not right. Someone needs to supervise the supervisors. Someone needs to police the cops, and that hasn't been happening for years. Back in late 90s, 2000s, if you got called to the captain's office, you knew you were getting your tail end chewed off. You didn't want to go there. And if you did go there, it's something the sergeant or lieutenant of that district couldn't handle. If it got to that, you knew the lieutenant and the sergeant were also going to get it. But now, with the structure of one lieutenant, I don't know, it's messed up the structure of law enforcement. But I do believe that whoever you select should be within the ranks or who was in the ranks in the past, who knows the individual, knows the trouble areas, the trouble people. Like I said, the good guys and the bad guys. You aggressively enforce on them, you work with housing. Some of them, like I said, there's this different individuals who lived in the same house for years. There was one house here in Pine Ridge, they lived in for 20 plus years. I did an assessment over a 2-year period and there was over 1,100 calls to that house. 1,100 calls for service. A lot of them violent, gang fights, stabbings, beatings. But they lived there for 20-some years. They were finally evicted. I've never been to the house or that area since when I worked Pine Ridge. It's going to take cooperation between our tribal programs, the courts, and the officers. The officers got to get motivated. They're getting paid well. They're getting paid well for law enforcement here on the reservation. It's not that hard. They just got to be experienced. They need the supervisor to be out there with them. I was acting captain for a little while, and any critical incident, I had a homicide and a shooting. I showed up from both of them when they were wrapped up. But I say, good. We found out who the bad guy was. We established the scene. One night we had a shooting. Kids shooting a gun off one of the housing areas here. I came in, I held that scene. And slowly information started trickling in. We were able to locate what vehicle he left in. We stopped that vehicle, got information, we dumped him off, and we were able to arrest that kid. They got him and the gun. Just through, supervisor being there, who knows what goes on, where they will go, what's going to happen. So I'll leave it up to you, council. It's your decision. We'll continue on what I see as a downward spiral. I cruise around Pine Ridge, I cruise around Oglala. Sometimes at night I've never seen a police car.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Many Horses. That'll do it for the interview here real quick. But thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, council.
Before you call in the next person, we need to say a meal prayer real quick. I would like to say that. I know we already ate, but I think it's, we need to do that out of respect. I know we got caught up, they were passing out food, and we just overlooked it, so. I'll say the prayer real quick. Tukashila, Opila, Tukashila, today we ask that you pray over our meal today and to watch over the leadership here, Tukashila, as we select some very important individuals today. Bless us today and throughout the rest of the week. It's coming. It's a busy week ahead of us, so watch over the way out to Hall and Tucket. Yeah, go ahead.
We talked about being consistent and we allowed the second individual to give closing remarks, but we didn't allow the first individual.
Yeah, I just mentioned that after the first thing, we should have.
Yeah, that was my mistake, and I said that to council, that I should have done that. So, I'm gonna try to be consistent to the rest of them.
I think the closing remarks are good, I think, but we should just allow the first guy to.
Next one.
Jason Bloomfield. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Lonehill. We're going to give you 5 minutes for an opening statement, then open it up to the council here, and then we'll give you a chance for a closing statement at the end, limited to 5 minutes again. So turn on the mic, until it turns red, and then introduce yourself, and mic's yours.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jason Lonehill. I just worked here in the police department for 20-something years. I've been in the business since 2002 anyway, law enforcement business. Certified through the Bureau of Affairs Police Academy. Went to criminal investigations training and various other trainings, supervisory trainings, police management trainings, things like that. A lot of experience on the road here. Mainly working at night, where all the fun stuff happens. That's what I prefer to be down here. Been involved with a lot of different investigations, drug investigations, alcohol investigations, homicides, rapes, things like that. Went through a lot of things here in my career. It's kind of hard to sum it up in five minutes. But I was here during the suicide runs we had in the teens, the homicides we had. Something I don't take lightly. I've been to 58 suicides since I've been here in this position, complete with suicides. That's a number that I carry close to my heart. I see a lot of tragedy, a lot of things that need to change. One of my reasons for running for chief of police is to bring back that responsibility of our position. This is a very, very important role amongst our people. I agree with Councilman Dreamer at the beginning. He stated it should be selected by the people. I think it should be as well. It's that important. The responsibility is that important. I started my career here. I've seen a lot of chiefs come and go. Been to at least 13 different chiefs since I've been here. A lot of people were brought in to this position from different agencies, from different places. They don't know what happens here on this reservation. They don't know what takes place here on the reservation. They come in here and they get overwhelmed at what takes place here. I'm homegrown. 27 minutes from Pine Ridge, 19 minutes from Manderson, 21 minutes from Oglala. That's how close I am. If something happens, I can be right there within minutes. I don't have to be waiting on to be called out. We had an incident this past week in that. It's hard to get people involved because nobody. You look at our logs, it says no contact, no contact, no contact. And that's not right. We should have people who will be responsible for this position, be responsible for lives out there, responsible for our officers. That's one of the big things, is bringing our department back to a place of responsibility. And like I said, it came through a lot of people. A lot of the guys that I worked with are no longer working in law enforcement. A lot of them passed away. I learned a lot of things from a lot of different people. And I believe I can contribute a lot to this position. based on experience alone. There's some things that I do need to work on as far as learning the ins and outs of the politics of it all. As far as getting out on the road and winning a little bit, you'll see me there. I mean, I see a lot of you guys on different things, and I'm always there. I'm always here. I'm ready to go. I've always been. With that, I'll open up the questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Longhill. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was about your certifications. Do you and are you CI certified?
Yes. I received my criminal investigation certification in 2020.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the floor. Go ahead, Norman.
Kind of swallowed that fried bread. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Norman.
One of the questions I asked the other candidates was, we have in our ordinances public intoxication, and we know that alcohol is the start of crime. And alcohol leads to domestic violence, leads to a lot of issues that plague our reservation. So, if you were chief of police and you drove through the parking lot of Billy Gale's, Bowie's, Big Bats, you know, you're just using Pine Ridge as an example. Your officer would obviously be able to tell who was intoxicated. Yet, I have seen nothing done. And that's a crime on our reservation, to be intoxicated. So, what would you as chief of police do to remedy that situation? And a lot of excuses were brought up saying that our AOF cannot handle, and they have to save room for the people that are actually committing crimes out there on the reservation. But using alcohol is a crime. And they need to be looked at as a crime. And I'm not reaching to you in any way, shape, or form, because that's your job, that's your arena. But we as the public eye have to see it. So I'm just wondering how you would remedy that situation.
First, I would lobby to try to get intoxication into make it legal. We've got so many battles going on this reservation. We've been fighting alcoholism for how many years? Decades. Decades and decades. We need to put a law and order where it's getting more feasible. We have drug addicts that come in there that we have to house, we have to house all the other people. I mean, you can fill up a jail in one day out here. That doesn't include, if we go downtown and pick up a guy, this is an example. We pick up a person who is intoxicated, take him to jail, he registers a 400 on PDP, and you take him to IHS. That's another process. That's a 3-hour process for me as one cop, when there's 3 of us on duty. So that takes me out of the area, so there's 2 people left to cover. That's Manderson, Porcupine, Moody Knee, Pine Ridge, Oglala. For you guys to cover things like that. So you got to pick and choose at that time. And you can sit there and judge it all you want, look at it in hindsight. But face value, I know this guy's going to be over 400, and he's going to take 3 to 4 hours of my shift away while there's something else going on. I'm going to make the conscious decision to, have something with this guy, have a relative come pick him up something. You know what I mean? It's yeah.
So, that being the identifying factor, that guy who's got a .4, 5, we'll put it at that level, jumps in a vehicle, drives down the road, because we're doing what ifs now.
Yeah.
You're what if, I'm what if, hypothetical, runs into a car full of a mother and 5 children. Now, what happens to our what ifs? So it's a big guessing game as to who, when, and where. And is law enforcement allowed to make that judgment call?
No, the law says take him to jail, you take him to jail.
But they don't do it.
Yes.
Julia?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Lone Hill. My first question, and then I'm going to ask a question from our community member who, because we are greatly affected with the violent crimes in our area. My first question, how do you encourage your officers to abide by the laws that are established in this circle and applied into our law and order code? I'll give an example. If we pass the motion to hold the parents, guardians accountable for their juvenile who's creating, who's being a menace in our community by shooting off guns, attacking women and beating them with metal bats, who are harassing the community, basically. And an officer says, well, I know the mother or the father to that child. I don't believe they know that their child is doing that, so I don't feel comfortable arresting them. But the law says to hold them accountable. How do you encourage your officers to abide by the laws that are established?
But I mean, a good example. I've done it. I've recently done it. We've had an incident where a young man was in here in the area doing some things. Went to his house. Mom didn't know he was out there. I'm sorry. You have to go to jail. I mean, you're responsible for this traffic for your child. And I explained it to her. She was receptive to it, which was good. She understood that she had to go to jail for her son's actions. And that's something that she set examples for younger officers to do by doing those things like that, enforcing those things like that. So I've done it recently based on what we got in front of the council and right. I mean, you lead by example. You show these younger guys what needs to be done, what needs to be done. And that's how we learned whenever we was younger, and that's what we want to do now. Show the younger guys what goes on.
Thank you for that. And my last question from the community, can you give your explanation on community policing?
Just out there interacting with everybody. I grew up here in Pine Ridge, so I have a pretty good relationship with everybody. I know everybody, I know the family around here. I had a good example for one of the programs that was coming in to do a domestic violence things. So I said, give an example. I said, you need to check into the generational stuff that goes on in our communities. Because I dealt with a mom and a dad, or a grandma and grandpa. I dealt with the son and the daughter. I dealt with the grandkids. I'm now dealing with the grandkids in the same situation. So our generational trauma needs to be addressed as well. But that starts in the family. That starts at home. Those are things that are taught within the family values. So we need all the help we can get. And it starts at home. It starts with our people at home. Realizing being responsible for their family members. I mean, I can't reiterate that enough. We need everybody's help. I grew up here in town, so I'm lucky enough to know a lot of people here. I worked all across the reservation, so if you ask me a question about somebody in somebody's district, I can pretty much tell you where they live and where they're from and who their family is, because I put myself out there. You know, I attend a lot of powwows, a lot of different things, a lot of different functions as a person, but people know me as a police officer. And I go somewhere and they're like, oh, you're a cop, right? And I'm like, no, I'm just a guy. I'm like, yeah, I work at the police department, you know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Tuppy.
Worm, how you doing? AKA the worm. No. My question is, you know, in the past and up to my present, I always had an issue with police not doing reports or showing up to report. So my question to you is how are you going to hold them accountable? Because they don't do a report, someone gets off the hook. They don't go to court, someone gets off the hook, which could be something major. So how do you plan on addressing that or disciplining them? Do you have a plan for that?
Yes, if we've been I can only speak from my experience at night on my shift. I make sure my guys get their reports done. If they don't, then verbally let them know you get these done. If you don't, you can get reprimanded, you get written up. You can get written up after you get suspended. I mean, it's as simple as that. This is the job you signed up for, to do reports. That's one of the things you have to do is reports. You don't have to take an instant report for everything, but there's things that need to be documented. You need to let them know that these policies are in place for our protection as a department. So I've done it. I can assure that. I'll keep following up on my guys. I mean, I'm a lieutenant on the shift, and I'll make sure my guys are responsible for their roles as a police officer.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Garfield.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Jason. So, one of the questions I asked was about friendships, because we know, there's a lot of friendships within public safety and the cops, and, what if, you had to discipline one of your friends or in that nature because of a violation of policy. I mean, would you have a problem, reprimanding one of your friends? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I understand the question. I mean, just friendships and loyalty run hand in hand. I'm loyal to the department. I'm loyal to my people. I've been here all these years. I left 1 year because I had enough, man. I needed a break. I left for a year. Went to work in Sioux Falls as a police officer. Came back because this is my home. These are my roots, man. So along that line, if you do something wrong, then yeah, you should be disciplined for it. And I don't have an issue with it. I mean, friendships or not, because most of these guys, you're on the streets, it's just you and another person out here doing all this stuff going on at night. I mean, you're out here fighting and chasing and getting spit on, stabbed at, shot at, all this stuff. And you build those bonds with people. And then you want to be that friend to make sure that the guy next to you isn't doing something that violates that policy. So if you're a real friend and you tell him, hey man, knock that off, don't be doing stuff like that, right? Not right now. Someone don't do that. It comes down to it, you have to be responsible for it. I'm responsible for my family. This is how I support them. This is the job that I do. I have to do it. If I've seen something violate the policy, then I have to do it. I have to discipline them.
And I know people are asking questions, pretty much the same questions, but I'm asking them based on things that were mentioned. One problem that I've always had, and it's coming from my constituents in my district, is the lack of officer presence in Wounded Knee and Manderson, mainly Wounded Knee. I get elders calling me, asking me to call the cops because they're not responding. And I know our response has always been, lack of law enforcement officers. But with what we have available, what would be your plan to make available officer presence in the districts, like more often than what's happening now? In the past, we talked to the chief about, law enforcement being parked on Gooseneck Road or in between Madison and Wounded. How would you as a supervisor get them into the communities rather than sitting outside of the communities?
Recruitment and retention is one of the main things. Recruiting people, I think that we should have a recruitment type thing worked out with IHS. Some of the security out here in the front with the boys, these younger fellows that get us started into security and things like that, and move up so we can start recruiting these guys, training them to be police officers. As far as now remedy, scheduling. We have a big problem with scheduling. We we've hammered 12-hour shifts for years, for the past 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden we're back at 8s and we're down to 2 people on the shift, 3 people on the shift. You know, and whereas at least 12 we had 4 or 5 people on per shift. So I think scheduling has a lot to do with it. Getting people to go sit in housing instead of sitting on the amusement. You know what I mean? Park, if you're gonna park somewhere, park in the middle of the damn housing. Park in front of a bootlegger's house. Park in front of somebody's drug dealer's house. Sit there. If that's what you're gonna do, if you got nothing going on, sit there. Do your reports in there. Because all our units are equipped with computers, everything. We have top-notch, state-of-the-art stuff. So they have no business to be sitting somewhere on the side of the road when there's nothing going on. Go sit in that community. Go sit in the housing area. If that's what you want to do. I sit right by Moon there. I sit in American Kyle. I sit in the middle of the housing now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sitting there. If you got nothing going on, you got reports to do, you got something to do, there's always something you can be doing. You know, like you said, go sit in front of the bootlegger's house. Bother them, you know what I mean? Something. Instead of sitting outside of town. I agree with you on that part where you're coming from. I know what you mean. So.
And then, you know, I should have asked the other applicants too, but, you know, it comes down to, because the chief of police is an administrator also. Are you well aware with the process for budgeting and doing 630, the contracts and all that other administrative work?
No, that part I'm lacking in, but I don't have an issue with learning it. I mean, it's something that I think that in this position, you should be teaching your younger people all of that stuff as well. So whenever I'm done with my career here, the person below me should know everything that I know. So nobody ever taught us those things. Nobody ever took us aside and said, hey, this is a budget. This is what a budget looks like. This is how you put it together. This is what they want, you know. Because we have all that stuff at dispatch. All our statistics are there on computer. All they have to do is punch in some numbers and some locations, dates, print all that stuff out. You know, those are all statistics that can be rigged into a grant somewhere, you know, and presented to get more funding for us. It's all there at your fingertips, you know what I mean? You just got to be able to extract that information and put it into a presentation and present it somewhere to get some money, extra funding. So that part, I'm not very well versed in, but I can guarantee you it's something that I'd be definitely wanting to learn about.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Mr. Loniel, we'll give you an opportunity for a closing statement. 5 minutes.
Okay. So this chief of police position is important. It's a very, very important position because he's responsible for lives out here. And like I said, we brought people in from different places for the past 10 years or so that aren't aware of the things that happen here and aren't responsible enough to be tasked with that. So they hide out and they're gone. I haven't seen our guys around here for months. I had no contact with nobody. Every time I hear from somebody, it's bad news. It's like, it shouldn't be like that. Ron Duke, he passed away. He was one of our chiefs that was actually in our squad rooms talking with us, visiting with us, you know, letting us know what happens, you know. James Twist is a good one. I mean, these are all older guys. Harold Brewer passed away. I mean, these are all the guys that had, I guess, some heart with our officers. They would come and visit them. So it make you feel like you're part of the team. It make you feel like you're part of the family. It don't feel like that no more. It doesn't. And that's what I want to bring back. We have to bring that responsibility and passion back to the job. You know, it's something that I want. It's a goal of mine. Eventually, I want to collaborate with all the other reservations and get all our police departments back onto a scale of one, because we have a big battle of drugs coming, and it's been coming for years and years, and it's getting worse and worse. We have a lot of different issues that come out from drug use. There's a lot of things that you guys don't see. There is, and we need to bring all that stuff to light, into the daylight, be more transparent about it. So I just hope we make a selection today and the person stays here and is committed to our people for an extended period of time, because switching from chiefs to chiefs to chiefs to captains to captains, isn't working. We need some stability within our department. So, all right, with that, I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lonel. John Pettigrew.
John Pettigrew? Step into the restroom.
You guys just want to move on with Bernardo? Because the other one went to the restroom. Bernardo?
Keep it going.
Yeah, Bernardo? Good afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez. Oh, John. Sorry. They were talking in my ear here. Sorry about that. So we'll give you 5 minutes for an opening statement, and then we'll open it up for questioning, and then another 5 minutes for a closing statement if you wish. So introduce yourself, push the red button, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is John Pettigrew. Been in law enforcement for well over 20 years now. Started in the Porcupine District, patrol officer. Successfully completed and attended the Indian Police Academy in 2000. Worked my way up from patrol, corporal police, and the Manderson Mutiny District, to sergeant, eventually to lieutenant of the Western Division here in Pine Ridge. Promoted up to captain of patrol of the Western Division, and eventually to captain of investigations when we assumed the investigation from the DIA. Currently working as a criminal investigator with the Department of Public Safety. I'm a certified instructor in tactical medical, active shooter response, and many other certificates and trainings.
Okay. So moving on with some questioning here. One of the questions that I have is you have the CI training here because that's one of the requirements of this position. But you do have that training?
Yes, sir. I attended the Department of Interior Investigator Training Program in Glencoe, Georgia in 2019.
Okay. Opening it up to the floor for questioning. Norman?
Good afternoon, Mr. Pettigrew. Afternoon. Norman Stagg-Silver from Lake Creek District. Keeping in line with the other questions I asked all the other candidates, we understand that alcohol is a major problem on our reservation, and whether intoxication is legal or illegal, an intoxicated person usually is taken in for 8 hours. Now, as chief of police, what would you do about the intoxicated individuals in the public eye? Say like on Billy Mills, Louise, Big Bats. and any other place in our districts?
Well, as chief of police, I'd probably do it the same way we've done it for years. I mean, I worked in this department for years. Whether it's legal or illegal to be intoxicated, it's the 8 hours sober. So, I mean, a lot of these times, that's the people in front of buoys are in front of big bats. Many people can't go in there and they can't comfortably shop. They can't go in there and do what they got to do without being harassed or being cornered. A lot of them get, I know personally, you go in there and a lot of them get aggressive if you don't have the money or you don't have change to give them. I think a person should be able to walk the streets or go into these stores and do what they need to do without being harassed, without being cornered, without being. So I would say that whether it be 8 hours or be some other type of charge, I would think that these guys need to be going. But I think that in the long run, as a chief of police, I think we need to work with the other agencies or the other entities to try and do something more. Because a lot of times, you're gonna overwhelm the jails. You're gonna overwhelm the police department, pick up everybody for intoxication. I know a few years back that the more people we pick up for intoxication, leaves less room in the jail for people that are actually charged. There was a time when they weren't able to bring people into the jails, so the jails will stop accepting people because they got so full of people that are coming in just for the 8 hours, or they're just the intoxication. So I mean, I think it's kind of a lose-lose situation. You don't want people out walking and being progressive and treating people the way a lot of them do. But if we pick every single person up for being drunk on the street or in front of these businesses, it's going to clog up the jails and it's going to pick up room that we need for people that are charged with domestic violence, assaults, those kind of things.
So just along that line, how many people are picked up for domestic violence and assaults that are intoxicated?
I want to say a majority of the people that we pick up, whether it be for assault, domestic violence, or majority of any other crimes, are under the influence of whether it be alcohol or drugs. A huge majority, not to say all, but I mean a huge majority of them are.
So would you say that a person who's intoxicated is more likely to commit a crime than not?
Yes, I would say.
So all these people standing over here and everywhere on our reservation who are intoxicated should be picked up before they do commit a crime?
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I agree that that's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. I mean, being intoxicated is a status offense. I mean, they don't go to court. You don't go to court. You don't go to. You have to pay a fine. It's just an 8-hour charge. You sit your detox 8 hours, and then they're out. If we could charge everybody for something they might do, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Just because you're intoxicated, it means that you're going to go home and assault your family because we can't tell the future.
Have you ever encountered a situation where you did take somebody in who was intoxicated and they later committed a crime?
I've seen many situations like that, yes.
So
yeah, I do understand where you're getting to. I mean, but like I said, it's kind of hard, especially on law enforcement. You can't arrest somebody for something they might do in the future.
And I do like the comment you made about accessing other programs for solutions, because we have a detox center now that can be accessed by law enforcement and people taken out there to get detoxed.
And that's one thing that I do believe that this reservation needs, is that detox. I mean, you can go to Rapid City and these other places, and somebody that's too intoxicated to take care of themselves, they're on the street. Here, it's more, all right, well, if you don't take them to jail, what are you going to do with them? Leave them on the street, take them home, those kind of things. And then we run into situations like they go home and do something. In Rapid City or these other jurisdictions that do have that service, you're able to take them to those detox, and you have to sit there for however long, 2-3 days, whatever it is to detox. And it kind of alleviates that situation.
Okay, thank you.
Julianne?
Good afternoon, Mr. Pettigrew. So I have a couple questions. My first question is, how do you encourage your officers to follow the laws that are established in this circle and apply to the law and order code. I'll give an example. In Pine Ridge District, we have a high crime rate with, that is happening amongst our youth. And let's say an officer goes to apprehend the youth or the juvenile, and in our code it says to hold the parents accountable or the guardians. And in the case that an officer is related or knows the guardian or the parent, they make the comment, well, I know this individual, I don't believe they know that their child is doing this, so I don't feel comfortable apprehending them or taking them into custody according to the code that has been established and passed. So how do you encourage your officers to abide by the law and order code that is set in this circle and applied?
I think a lot of it will come down to, and I do understand the situation, I mean, because if you get an officer that works the area for a long time, they might get to know the people, know who, and I hear that all the time, well, I know that guy, he's just Joe Schmo from down the street, he's not hurt nobody, we're gonna set him go, he'll go home. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to policy. I know in the past where we've done it to where, especially in juvenile situations, we come across a juvenile that's been caught up, even if it's just curfew, 2-3 times. Maybe times the first few times we'll cite them. After that, then we start going after the parents, whether we cite the parents or arresting the parents for contributing. I think a lot of it, if we can create those policies in black and white as far as this white relationship, if you have this problem with this juvenile 1-2 times, we dealt with him 1-2 times, took one side of him, that didn't work within that set amount of time, we still continue to have problems with that one juvenile or this one group, then I think that you should be able to arrest that family or that parent, guardian, whoever it may be, for that contributing with the delinquency. Because you are right, a lot of the crimes here are committed by these juveniles and these kids they bring around, and whether it be a lack of parental responsibility or whatever it may be, a lot of these crimes are committed by these juveniles running around with firearms.
Thank you. And this question comes from our concerned community member. What is your explanation on community policy?
Community policy or policing?
Policing, I apologize.
Well, community policing, I believe it's kind of what we need to get back to. I believe that we need to get these officers, we need to get officers back into these communities. That means more proactive patrols, foot patrols, those kind of things, getting out, meeting and talking with people. Because you go in these communities, especially now, a lot of officers may not be from that community or may only work that community for a short time and move to another place. You go in these communities, they know that place better than anybody. If someone's been living there for 20 years and you get an officer that's only been there twice, they're going to know a lot more. They're going to know who the drug dealers are, or who the people, bootleg, those kind of things. And I believe that's the only way that we're going to take these communities back, is if we get those officers back into those communities and through community policing and more proactive patrols, and not only just proactive patrols, but more aggressive enforcement.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Cubby.
How you doing, John? I guess my question is, in the past and present, we had with all the police officers, them showing up for court or doing their reports afterwards. My question to you is how you hold them accountable, because I mean, that was a big problem in the past, and we always had people getting off the hook big time, over and over, and they're out there committing the same crimes, running cops, doing whatever they're doing. But my question to you is, you need to hold, how are you going to hold them accountable? I know the lieutenants and so on and so forth are charge of that, but ultimately you're the chief of police. If you're in that position, what would you do?
I believe that, I'm a firm believer in accountability. I think, but it needs to be fair, and it needs to be even, and it needs to be across the board, whether it's a lieutenant, it's an officer, like I said, way it's supposed to be set up, and way it's supposed to be ran, is the officers, that lieutenant is supposed to be there that on shift with those officers, so at the end of his shift, those officers do their reports, he's supposed to be able to review them, sign off on them, make sure they're sent in. He's supposed to know exactly what calls they had, what arrests they made, those kind of things, so he can pass them on and ensure that those things are done. But if I am to be selected for the position, my plan would be to get back to them, because that will ensure that officer accountability, ensure that those officers are doing what they're supposed to do every night, every day, not only as far as patrolling, but as far as the reports, showing up for court, getting served for court, those kind of things. That's the ultimate responsibility for those lieutenant positions or those supervisor positions. And like I said, I keep saying that as it is now, I understand that they're working on 8-hour shifts. You might be under the supervision of one supervisor, a lieutenant, but that lieutenant may be on a whole different shift. So the shift you're working is under a different lieutenant that's not your supervisor, that's not responsible for that. So what it needs to get back to is back to that structured line. And if we have that structured line, I think it will alleviate a lot of these problems. Because right now, as it is, there is no structure.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Norman.
One last question. I noticed in your application that you are presently employed with the Rosebud Police Department?
Sorry. Yeah, I was at the time that I submitted the application. I'm back with the Department of Public Safety as a criminal investigator.
Back over here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Garfield.
Good afternoon. Same question I asked about, because I know we've been focusing a lot about law enforcement, was the administrative portion. You're well aware with budgeting and the 638 contracts, and, just the administrative functions of being a chief.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I worked as when I first got into the lieutenant or sergeant position in the Windy District. Back then it was districts. Basically your district was your own police, you ran your own budgets. That's when I kind of had kind of a crash course into budgets and the 638 contract. But as I moved up into the captain of police, the captain of investigations, and eventually I was an acting chief position for a little bit there. I do know the 638 contract, read it several times, or at least the one we had then. If it changed a little bit now, I'm not sure. And the budgeting, how to run those budgets.
And another question, and as an acting chief, you were acting chief before, we've always had issues with lack of law enforcement in our communities, especially out in the districts. And I don't know if it's due to, scheduling or whatever, but, my constituents out in Wounded Knee and Anderson, we're quite frankly tired of waiting up to an hour and possibly even all night for an officer to show up to respond to an assault or something taking place. And out there people are shooting guns and we still don't get officer presence, and it takes quite a bit for someone to come, and my constituents are kind of sick and tired of that. So what would you do differently to ensure that we'd have officer presence out in my district? Not only mine, but all the other districts too.
So, my plan is more of a kind of a two-phase plan. So, in the short term, which should be the first phase, would be, like I said, we're gonna move these officers back to a 12-hour shift, so there's more accountability, there's more shift coverage, you'll get more officers per shift. Then a redeployment of officers or manpower to address these, because we know which areas may get one call a night, and we know which areas are gonna get hundreds of calls a night. I mean, it's a game where we have to ensure that we have the right amount of people to where they need to be. And with the manpower we got now, we have to take from one to put to the other. But if we do it the right way, we got this system, the Zerker system that can give stats on which areas are our hot areas, which areas are busy areas. I plan on using that to kind of put the people where we need them, make sure we got the people where they need them. And not only that, I'm looking to maybe, if you want to call it a task force or whatnot, to deal with the violent crime, these bootleggers, these drug dealers, both from the Criminal Investigations Division, Patrol, and Highway Safety, in the short term and intermediate too. And that's going to be their one sole purpose, is to go into these areas that are suffering from this and apprehend these bootleggers and drug dealers. We've been waiting. I know that before, when I was in an acting position, that my thing was always, it's hard to make changes when you're in an acting position, because you make that change, the next day you might not be in that position, and then it's a whole other change for those officers. And that's morally for the officers and for the department, because as you make these changes, and if it's not stable, then that affects the morale, and that affects the productivity of the department. But if I were to get the permanent full-time chief position, I do believe that we have the people, we have the ability to do these things. We shouldn't have to wait for an outside entity or outside personnel to come and do these things for us when we can do them ourselves. We waited for BI and FBI to come in and, all right, they're gonna come and do this task force, they're gonna arrest all these drug dealers, but we're waiting a year, 2 years, whatever it may be for these indictments. In the meantime, they're out there doing the same thing. I think that we can do these things ourselves, we can do it more effectively and faster, with faster result, even if it is just, like I said, trouble charges 1 year. 1 year in jail is better than that 1 year they're out still selling those drugs, still selling those skips mixed with alcohol, or mixed with antifreeze and those kind of things. So my plan would be to get here, identify. Only way we're gonna get these communities back is if we take them back, and that's gonna, like I said, community policing, get more proactive patrols, get more aggressive in enforcement of these laws. We have lost control of these communities, and the only way we're gonna get control back is if we take them.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll give you 5 minutes for closing if you want to.
I've been at this job a long time. I've been here in this department for a long time. And I know, I've seen this department in the good days and seen it in the bad days. There's no reason why this department can't be the best in Indiana. No reason at all. I think the only thing that it lacks is the proper direction. Leadership. You need somebody that's gonna not only just tell guys what to do, but it's gonna get out there and show them how to do it or what needs to be done. Someone's gonna lead from the front, not just supervise, but actually lead. And I believe I can be that person, just give it out.
Okay, thank you. Bernardo?
Chair, we went into day 2.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez. The format we're kind of following with all the candidates is we're going to give you 5 minutes to say what you want to say for an open introduction. And then we're going to open it up to the floor for questioning. And then 5 minutes to closing statement. So if you could press the button, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for welcoming here for some of you. I appreciate that very much. My name is Bernardo Rodriguez Jr. I'm from the Winterview District. I've been to IPA, been to the Washington State Police Academy as well. Gone through the full CI school. I'm an instructor, community policing instructor, fire instructor, use of force instructor, defensive tactics instructor. And the main emphasis is on community policing. I believe that's a big part of what we do, and we do it every day. They've done it before we were cops. They pull in, people would buy in for coffee, cops would have coffee. I walk around the neighborhoods, I sit there and do everything I can do to be a part of the community, because these are our people. This reservation and the other 2 reservations I worked on, I'm from here. This is what we do. So I'm just here to do a job that needs to be done. And for me, a leader, this department has a whole bunch of supervisors that it needs its leaders. We don't have leaders. Leaders lead from the front. Leaders take charge, like you guys. You get things done. And that's what we need. Laziness breeds laziness. You get one lazy guy, who teaches another guy to be a cop. And what is that cop? Lazy. That cop is lazy. It's like a plague. It just goes down and down and down and down. And I believe this department needs to be overhauled. It needs to have a, how do I say it? An upgrade. It needs to change the climate. We need to get positive and be positive, move forward in a positive direction. And we need to stop spinning our wheels. So like I said before, no mud. Move forward. Get this department working and get these officers and hold them accountable for what they do wrong. And, give them props when they're right. I've been an officer involved shooting myself. I know what that is to go through. I've done that. I'm here. It's not. But that's just the way it goes. And that's just doing our job. And it's not an easy job to do here. I've done it for 7 years. So every position of supervisor you could have, I've had my first line supervisor in division. I've done in management. I've done leadership to human behavior. I've done advanced management. I've been acting chief of police here in North Dakota. I've had every supervisor job there is, investigator, detective. Like I said, I've been acting chief already. I don't know, something that needs to be done. It's a job I'm ready to handle. I'm ready to take on and get done and do it right. Turn this department around. I've worked for this department for 21 years. I've been through good chiefs, I've been through bad chiefs, I've been through all the ups and downs. I've worked with the legal team on this lawsuit in Washington, D.C. When I was on council, I had to initiate that lawsuit. And I try to stay updated on that as much as I can. I know there's a lot of things that need to go on. Still need to go, and a lot of fighting we need to get done and make that happen and make it right. And I've been on the man to do it. I'm sure to do my best for my people and for you guys and to make things right. So questions or anything else I can answer, I'll be more than happy to.
Okay, thank you for that. One of the questions that I had, this position requires a CI training certification. Are you CI certified?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Norman?
Good afternoon, Bernard.
Good afternoon.
It says here that you're currently the sheriff of Oglala County.
I was at the time when I submitted this. I've been the sheriff for probably 7 months now. I haven't been a sheriff.
Oh, okay, I just
Yeah,
reading the
so-
application. But keeping online with the rest of the questions that I asked other candidates was, alcohol is illegal on our reservation.
Yes.
So that anyone using alcohol is violating one of our ordinances.
Yes.
And a lot of problems stem from alcohol use.
Yes.
So as chief of police, if you go over to Billy Mills Hall, Bowie's, Big Bats, you can see a lot of alcohol use over there. As chief of police, what would you tell your officers to do to alleviate this problem?
Well, my understanding right now, from the outside looking in, being short-handed as we are, to have them going over there and we've been doing local roundups and having to do their aid. I know it takes time from the jails. I know it takes the time away from the jailers to have someone go in there and get arrested, be booked in and all that stuff for intoxication. But I think if we ran those through there on occasion more than once or twice a week and get people cleared out of there, I think that's going to deter them from having to go back and keep going back and keep going back, because they're going to keep getting picked up, keep getting picked up, keep getting picked up. So I think that if with some repetition, it's going to alleviate some of that until they know that, hey, we can't do that here anymore.
So as chief of police, how would you work with corrections in being able to, I guess, identify their lack of space for people who need to be there?
Well, with that part of it, it's, if there's people that need to be there that's been sentenced and need to be at the jail, then those would need to take priority over whatever else is there. And then if we can clear up space or even get them like twice a week to double up for the weekend to clear space for a new influx of prisoners, then we can do that. But working with the jail and just figuring out a plan, the best way we can to work together and get things done. Because we're all one program. Us, the jail, and the courthouses should be operating as a team, not individual aspects of a different side of the dice. I mean, it just doesn't work right.
Great, thank you.
Julianne?
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good afternoon.
It was definitely a pleasure serving with you on the last time you were on council. I did speak about when we went into litigation, the intensity that was involved in that decision making. My question is regarding the officers also abiding by the laws that are established in the circle. How do you encourage an officer or your officers, if elected, to follow the laws and the policies that are established in this circle and add it to the law and order code? I'll give an example. If in our district we have a high crime rate amongst our juveniles, and one of the decisions we made were to hold the parents accountable, because we understand that being a good relative starts at home, and it is the responsibility of the parent who bring the children into our world to raise them in a good way. And an officer responds to a call of a juvenile shooting weapons or beating a relative with iron bats. I use those examples because that's what happens in our community and has had happen. And the officer says, well, I know the parent, but I don't believe they understand that their child would do that or is doing that, so I don't feel comfortable taking them into custody. How do you encourage the officers to follow the law if we're asking others to follow the same law applied?
Well, it's, okay, like you said, it all starts at home with the parents, but with us as law enforcement, when we go there, if they're breaking the law, then they need to go to jail. If the code says that the parent needs to go because the juvenile, like you said, the juvenile's going acting up, and they go to the parents' house, you let the parents know, hey, the juvenile's acting up, this, that, and everything, we have them in jail, you're going to jail too because that's in the code. You just have to get the officers to follow the code, and willing to do the paperwork, and get anything done. And again, it's the environment of public safety right now and what's going on. It's not really a positive place to work. It makes it hard to have officers want to do their job. And it's making them, you can't make them do their job, which sucks, but I mean, I would address that in the simple fact that, hey, you do your job or don't do your job here. It's that simple. If you're not going to do your job, then don't do it. I did my job. I have arrested presidents, I've arrested other council members for this tribe, and it was my job. And I did what I had to do, and getting them to do that and to see that and make them work towards that, it needs, the department itself needs the environmental change, a mental change as to what's going on here, that it's okay, come to work and do your job. So all you gotta do is do your job. Don't worry about the politics, don't worry about the last name, who they're with, who whatever it is they're related to, whatever. Go to work, do your job. That's all you need to do, that's all I've ever done.
Thank you for that. And this next question comes from our concerned community members. Can you give your explanation can you give an explanation in your words about community policing?
Community policing, for me, like I said, as a community police instructor, it's something that I've always did. Getting out, walking the neighborhoods, saying hi. You don't have to be looking for a suspect, just getting out and walking around, saying hi. You know, cruising around with your windows down and your shades off and waving. You know, getting out, shooting basketball with the kids. I used to play Saturday morning football in the streets in Crazy Horse with kids in the morning because they'd be out there throwing the football, and I was an all-time quarterback. I have a picture of that too, which is actually pretty cool. It's a long story, but. And it's just getting out and getting involved and being a part of something, saying hi, waving. It's the small things. Back in the day when the cops went around, they didn't call it community policing because they were part of the community. The cops back in the days didn't go around, they were part of the community already. People would stop, hey, come on over, have some coffee. When I was working and walking around in Anderson and Wounded Knee, people would invite me over for water or a cup of coffee, and we'd sit around and BS with all the kids. I'd hand out stickers. This is the stuff we need to get back to. We need to have officers start getting out of the units instead of sitting there perched up and parked all over the place like we see them. We never did that when I was a cop. I mean, I've been a cop, started being a cop since 1994. I mean, I've been through, like I said, 26, 27 years of being a cop. It's just, you don't do that. You get out of the unit, you say hi, you walk around, you introduce yourself. You let people know that you're there for them. You make yourself more approachable. Not be a robot or a machine or that cop's an ass or that cop's, you know, whatever, but it's just what it is. But this is something that you gotta get instilled in these officers that, hey, you're a part of something bigger than yourself and we need to work towards moving forward on this. It helps everybody.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Cubby.
I do, Bernardo.
Hey.
Ask the other candidates the same question. Is that in the past and present, we had the police officers not doing reports after they get done with patrol, not going to court. You know, if you don't do that, then it's gonna let somebody off the hook. You're gonna continue to keep doing the same stuff, running the cops, selling drugs, so on and so forth. So my question to you is like, how are you gonna hold the officers accountable and lieutenants, because they're the ones that supposed to be checking on the officers to see if they're doing reports. But you know, in the past, it's a big problem, current it is too.
When I was lieutenant, I dealt with officers, I gave them, okay, so as a lieutenant, when I worked, my stats were higher or just as high as the officer stats were. I was out there busting my butt just as much as them. I would give them an hour, 2 hours if we had it, or hour and a half to get their reports done, and my butt was out there patrolling, not sitting in a desk, not sitting pushed up somewhere, not doing, I was out covering for them so they can go get their reports done. That's not happening. I know that's not happening. As chief of police, I make sure that my lieutenants are out there patrolling so their officers can rotate through, get their reports done, and then make sure that the courts work with the courts on scheduling for their dates. A solid day, here's your day of court. You know, get to court on this days. These are your days. These are your days for court. These are your days for court. Sometimes they'll be off here and there, but you know what? This is why you sign that bottom line. Like in the military, you sign up. This is, you get what they give you. You know what I mean? That's that. And that's the same thing with public safety. You sign that line, you got to be there for court. You got to be there. And I understand it's a revolving door. And hey, I arrested that guy 20 times. I did the report 800 times, and he's still getting out the next day. He's still walking around. That's not your worry. That's my worry as chief of police, to do with the courts to make sure that gets taken care of. Your job is to continue to do your job, even if I arrest you 20 times. Get your report done, get to court, do your job. That's, as a chief of police, giving lieutenants to work with their officers, getting a positive change, mental change in the department to move forward and say, hey, we're here to do a job, let's just do it right. And I think if we stayed on them and be persistent, like with the bus pulling in front of the nation and loading everybody up on occasion, I think would be something that we can afford, some positive momentum built up on that. But I think, like you said, change here doesn't happen overnight, it never does, but I think it's a good positive step forward that we can get things done.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, Mr. Rodriguez, we'll give you 5 minutes to closing statement, if you wish.
I just do the best I can. You know, you that know me, wherever I am, and whatever I do, I try to do the best at it. It doesn't matter what it is. I've been a cop for a lot of years. I've done everything you can do. I was the only, to this day, the only travel police officer to get called by the BIA to be an instructor at the academy when they're shorthanded down at IPA. I get called down to be an instructor in firearms, defensive tactics. I've graduated several classes down at the academy as an IPA instructor, and the only travel officer to do that. I've done nothing but move forward to be a positive role model to LA officers around me. Teach them to do what needs to be done, because that's my job. I think it's all our responsibility as supervisors, because being leaders, there's a whole lot of supervisors, and you can supervise anybody, but can you lead them? I know we had an officer-involved shooting incident this past weekend, and it's just, yeah, that could have been handled a little different than from what I heard went on, but hearsay's hearsay. I wasn't there, so I don't feel good on commenting on it. But I just think that there's a lot of things that need to change to make this department better, because it's gone backwards, and it needs to be changed to move forward, and that's what I want to do. Like I said, nothing happens overnight, but we can move forward and we can get this done. Being from here, I love it here. This is my home. I know what's going on in these districts. I worked in all 9 districts at one time or another, from Oglala to Red Shirt. I've worked in every district. I've seen the issues, I've seen the problems, having these bootleggers, these drug dealers, and these guys coming from Rapid, you know, just all this coming up from Nebraska, from everywhere doing this stuff. There's a lot of things that need to happen. And as chief of police, I'm prepared for that. I'm prepared to handle that. I'm going to take it head on and do what needs to be done, and piss off a lot of people along the way. because that's gonna happen. So, it's just, you know, bring it on. Thank you for your time. It's good seeing a lot of you. I only get to see you once in a while on TV. So, other than that, thank you.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Take a break.
Yeah, that's it for that interview.
All right, well, we'll give you a 10-minute break.
Yes, thank you.
Get up, stretch out.
There's some fruit and stuff back here too. There's some snacks back here.
I realize how much I like second class life. Even when I told her yesterday, negative and I tried to change it to be like, make it positive. I don't do that.
We have everything for it.
Okay, okay.